Yeah. Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. I'm a headliner.
What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there today. We're talking about a few players who are underrated at their position here in 2022 fantasy football. We're not going to waste a whole lot of time. We're getting right into the content, but first, I got to set you a like goal, right? This video can hit 657 likes. I'll give away a free draft guide to somebody down below in the comment section. So hit that like button, leave that comment. I'll be picking a winner, I'm sure, pretty soon, because you guys are knocking likes out of the park. But if you're looking to get your draft guide no matter what, head over to fantasyheadliners.com. Available for pre-order right now. We're looking at like a July 1st drop date right around the corner. Tons and tons of information. But let's go ahead and head in to a few players that I feel are really underrated here once again in 2022 fantasy football. I got one player from each position here: a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and a tight end. And we're going to start it off with a player that I feel like I have to mention in these videos almost every single year. I was going back and looking at old videos. I did a video on this guy like a couple years ago in this same position. And here we go once again. It's Derek Carr of the Las Vegas Raiders. But it's kind of funny, right? Because a lot of people now all of a sudden they're liking Derek Carr because, oh, now he has Davante Adams. So Derek Carr is going to be a great quarterback. It's the same people who have been saying for years that he should lose his job. It makes no sense. The guy has continually put up solid numbers even without top-tier talent for years. Sure, we love ourselves some Hunter Renfrow. We're all about going third and Renfrow. We like Darren Waller. But there hasn't been many times over the last couple years that everybody's been healthy and on the field at the same time for Derek Carr. Yet, he's now thrown for over 4,000 yards passing in 4 straight years, has had 20 touchdowns throwing through the air in the past 3 years, and has thrown for 10 interceptions or less in 3 out of the last 4 seasons. And now, yes, he adds himself his best friend and arguably one of the best wide receivers in football in Davante Adams. You add him to the mix with Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs, even Kenyon Drake coming back here this year. He's in line to have multiple top weapons to really help put him over the hump, I guess you could say, here in fantasy football. Now, despite not having a whole lot last year, really just Hunter Renfrow for the most part, because Darren Waller was battling injuries, he still finished as quarterback 13 overall, the same spot he finished a year prior in 2020 as well. He only missed being a top 12 quarterback, a quarterback 1 in fantasy football, by 12 points each season. Ask yourself this: by adding in Davante Adams and having multiple healthy weapons at the same time, do you think he could score another 12 points or so? Honestly, this is the year for Derek Carr to break into the top 10, but what's crazy about it is even though people are hopping on the bandwagon, he's still currently sitting at quarterback 15 with an ADP estimated around the 10th round. You want to know why we like to wait on quarterbacks here in drafts? It's because you can snag some absolute studs later on, and one of those this year could be Derek Carr, who is still highly, highly underrated. How about a running back now? What about the New England Patriots' Damien Harris? There's just a few players this year that I don't really understand why they're falling so much. I mean, I get it. It's the Patriots' backfield, and it's always going to be crowded. But how is 2022 going to be so drastically different from 2021? I mean, he's still going to be the lead running back in this backfield, and he's going to split touches with Ramondre Stevenson. Okay? He did that last year, and he was running back 13th overall and was only 10 fantasy points away from finishing as running back 8 overall. He only had 220 total touches, 1,000 total yards, and 15 freaking touchdowns. The other running backs in New England, they combined for more total touches than Damien Harris with 277. So it's not like Harris was just the guy getting all the work last year and now he's heading into a split backfield. That's just not going to happen. It's going to be a similar situation to what we saw last year. Sure, James White is back. doesn't really affect Damien Harris. He's not really in there for his pass catching ability anyway. That could affect some of the other backs maybe on their roster, but let's be honest, James White isn't what he was with Tom Brady either. So they've got newly drafted Pierre Strong. Do you think that he just leapfrogs Damien Harris and Ramondre Stevenson on the depth chart? No. Probably not going to happen. And we know the New England Patriots love to run the ball. They don't throw it like they used to. In fact, they didn't win a game last year when Mac Jones threw for over 36 pass attempts. They're going to run the ball here once again, and Damien Harris finished top 12 in the NFL among all NFL running backs in red zone touches with 46, which is a great number, rushing yards, total touchdowns, and here's a funny one, breakaway runs. He had 14 runs of over 15 yards or more. That's intriguing, right? Because then we get that big play upside, the touchdown upside. Damien Harris, once again, looks to have a similar role than what we saw in 2021 as well. He's currently, right now, though, he's sitting at running back 26. Running back 26 in the 8th round? Sounds like I'm going to be owning a lot of Damien Harris here this year because he is severely underrated in 2022. How about a wide receiver? Van Jefferson. Why is nobody talking about Van Jefferson this year? It just seems like he's like the forgotten piece in this high-powered offense. Ever since they signed Allen Robinson, it's like Van Jefferson is just an afterthought. I mean, he's coming off a season in which he saw 89 targets for 50 receptions, 802 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Are those huge numbers? No. But right now, he's currently sitting at wide receiver 68. That is 33 spots lower than he finished in 2021. And remember, down the stretch there, majority of the second half of the season, he was also having to contend with Odell Beckham in that lineup, and yet he was still putting up decent numbers. In order for him to surpass his current wide receiver 68 ranking by the consensus, he would only need 40 catches for 500 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think he can surpass that. Maybe I'm crazy. Tell me down below if you think I'm crazy. I think Van Jefferson can definitely outproduce 4,502 in an offense that's as high-powered as we've seen in LA. But he doesn't need a ton of volume, right? It's the type of receptions that he's getting that make him valuable. He was 7th overall in the NFL among all wide receivers, ranking at 16 yards per reception. The big plays are there for Van Jefferson, and you know opposing defenses are going to be focusing on Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson there on the outside, so we could see ourselves a whole lot of Van Jefferson, especially when you add in the mix that Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay really have confidence in Van Jefferson, and you saw that on the field and in the playoffs last season. But lastly, ask yourself this question. What were to happen to this offense if Allen Robinson or Cooper Kupp, God forbid, were to go down? Van Jefferson is going to get peppered with targets. So getting a guy that late in drafts at wide receiver 68, it's like almost a no-brainer for a lot of people. If you're looking for some added depth at the wide receiver position, Van Jefferson, still highly, highly underrated. Lastly, a tight end, the football kind. What about Hunter Henry? No, I'm not a Patriots fan. I just realized I got 2 Patriots in this video, but you know what? I'm going to go ahead and roll with it because Hunter Henry is very underrated at the tight end position. When you hear the name Hunter Henry, what do you think of? Like, what's the first thing that comes to mind? If I'm being completely honest, the first thing that pops into my head, injuries, right? But maybe that's something that I need to try to train my mind to ignore and try to look past the years in LA. And maybe you should as well. He was able to play a full season in New England just last year, and he really showed that he was the pass-catching tight end in that offense. It wasn't Jonnu Smith, it was Hunter Henry. He ended up with 75 targets, 50 receptions, 603 yards, and 9 touchdowns, finishing as tight end 9 overall and half PPR scoring. But what's crazy, totally crazy, dude was only 4 points. 1, 2, 3, 4 points away from finishing as the tight end 5 overall and outscoring Gronk. It was a tight race there at the bottom half of the tight end ones, and Hunter Henry was right there in the mix, right? I mean, he finished top 10 among all tight ends in red zone targets, average depth of targets, touchdowns, and Mac Jones had a quarterback rating of 130.7 when he targeted Hunter Henry. Do you think he's just going to abandon him now? Probably not. They brought in Devontae Parker. It's just another piece on the outside that opposing defenses are going to have to focus on and should help open up the middle of the field for Hunter Henry. But for whatever reason, right now, he's currently ranked by the consensus as tight end 17 going in the 14th round. A guy who is just a few points shy of finishing inside the top 5, all the way down at tight end 17. If you find yourself punting tight end, maybe you didn't get one of the elite guys at the beginning and you're looking to take a stab on too late, Hunter Henry should definitely be in the mix for some players that you're looking at that are very, very underrated. But honestly, there's a lot of players out there that are underrated, and we'll touch on more of them here throughout the offseason, but I want to make sure we kind of just give a little bit at a time. Could I go out there and make a video that was an hour long? Yeah, but you'd probably get bored because the attention span of most people is like 8 minutes. So it doesn't do me a lot of good to make super long videos that people are just going to kind of doze off into. So we want to make sure we keep these videos a little bit shorter, right? So you can digest the information, retain it, and then be able to regurgitate it during your fantasy football drafts. But let me know down below in the comment section, are there any names of players that you feel are very underrated in this year's fantasy football draft? I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what you guys put down below in the comment section. Always having a good time going back with you guys and conversing, trying to come up with the best possible game plan so that all of us as a community can absolutely dominate fantasy football here in 2022. But for now, hopefully you guys are having a great day, a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you later.